I'm calling to order the meeting of the Housing Authority of the City of Salem for Monday, October 28th, 2024. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Stapleton?
I'm here.
Vice Chair Phillips?
Here.
Commissioner Gwynn? Here. Commissioner Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner Hoy?
Here.
Commissioner Nordike?
Here.
Commissioner Varney?
Here.
Resident Commissioner Villegas? Absent. Chair Nishioka?
I'm here, thank you. I have asked Councilor Gonzalez to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Vice Chair Phillips, are there any additions or deletions?
Not tonight.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? There's no public comments for the Housing Authority. Councilor Phillips, you have a motion for the consent calendar?
Yes, I move approval of tonight's consent calendar.
Second.
Towards my motion, tonight's consent calendar consists of items 3.1A, the October 14th, 2024 draft Salem Housing Authority minutes, and item 3.2A, which is a recommendation to approve a 3-year collective bargaining agreement between the Salem Housing Authority and AFSCME Union for a period from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2027.
Great, thank you.
And that concludes, the consent calendar.
Thank you. Councilor Stapleton, Commissioner Stapleton.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to make a comment on 3.2A. I have received a larger donation from AFSCME for my current race for the State House. So this is not where we need to do the potential conflict of interest or any of that, but I wanted to be clear and transparent and on the record that they have supported my campaign. I will be participating in this motion, but just wanted to be on the record.
Great, thank you. It's been, the consent calendar has been moved by Vice Chair Phillips and seconded by Commissioner Varney. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Stapleton?
Aye.
Vice Chair Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Gwynn?
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoy?
Aye.
Commissioner Nordike?
Aye.
Commissioner Varney?
Aye.
Resident Commissioner Villegas absent. Chair Nishioka?
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you. So we now have information reports, and I will have some questions. Yes. Yes, Ms. Utes, would you like to make a comment?
Thank you. I'm Nicole Utes. I'm the Housing Administrator for Salem Housing Authority. And I just wanted to highlight that we added an additional section called Customer Service into our Program Management Report to help solidify how the call volume, the email volume at our customer service front desk, keeping in mind that that is just a couple of employees that are maintaining this high volume of calls and concerns that come into the Housing Authority and disseminating them out to the employees. But we wanted to be able to capture just the volume of inquiries that we do have coming into our agency right now. This does seem to increase regularly. It is extremely high right now with the opening of our public notice announcement for our waiting list that opened for Inglewood East, Small Building, Brush College, Meadowlark Village, Livingston, Northgate, South Fair, and Mahonia Crossings. The volume over the weekend in applications alone was over 650 applications that came through just in less than 48-hour period of time. So just to put into perspective the need that's out there right now. And then I wanted to highlight in our outreach section, we list eviction prevention services that our outreach team does out there. They do a phenomenal job working with the homeless services team. They do outreach out in the field, but a key component to keeping people housed is that eviction prevention services. And I know you had asked a question regarding what all does eviction prevention services mean. In this case, they had come back with, oftentimes they're the ones that are the mediating the payment agreement to ensure that somebody can get back on track on their rent. They may be helping a client through a notice of violation of whatever it may be, that they have some decor that may be outside, that they're helping them navigate through what may be allowed at an apartment complex, what may not be allowed at an apartment complex. They also connect residents with mentor services and resources as needed. Pretty much whatever is called upon, they will go and they will try to help be that key mediator to keeping that housing component and that stability. If we can keep people housed, that's an important key to keeping that stability going. And then I also wanted to just continue to highlight our Section 8 program, and over the $2.7 million is going out in our Salem-Keizer community, and over 3,000 households that are utilizing that resource. But alone that even though we're in a shortfall year, we still got 32 new voucher holders during that month. And so we're still making continued progress even though we're shortfall listed and we can only utilize certain voucher funding.
Thank you very much. You have answered all the questions I was going to make. So does anyone else have any questions? Great. I will now call this meeting adjourned. Yay, that was fast.
Call to order this meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency for the City of Salem for Monday, October 28, 2024. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Board Member Stapleton.
Here.
Board Member Nishioka.
Here?
Board Member Phillips.
Here.
Board Member Gwynn.
Here.
Board Member Gonzalez.
Here.
Board Member Hoy.
Here.
Board Member Nordyke.
Here.
Board Member Varney.
Here.
Chair Hoy.
Here. Councilor Nishioka, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
We do not.
Thank you. Do we have anybody signed up for public comment? Nobody signed up for public comment for the Urban Renewal Agency. So Councilor Nishioka, the consent calendar.
Thank you. I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion by Nishioka, second by Phillips. Councilor, to your motion.
Yes, the consent calendar consists of 3.1A, which are minutes of the September 9th, 2024 meeting, and that concludes the consent calendar.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Board Member Gwynn.
Aye.
Board Member Gonzalez.
Aye.
Board Member Hoy.
Aye.
Board Member Nordyke.
Aye.
Board Member Varney.
Aye.
Board Member Stapleton.
Aye.
Board Member Nishioka.
Aye.
Board Member Phillips.
Aye.
Chair Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. We don't have any other items on our agenda. Ms. Rutherford, did you have anything for us this evening? All right. We're adjourned. I call to order this meeting of the Salem City Council for Monday, October 28, 2024. If the recorder will please call the roll.
Councilor Stapleton.
I'm here.
Councilor Nishioka.
Still here.
Councilor Phillips.
Here.
Councilor Gwynn.
Here.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilor Hoy.
Here.
Councilor Nordyke. Councilor Varney.
Here.
Mayor Hoy.
Here. Councilor Nishioka, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
We do not.
All right. It's time for council and city manager comment. Do we have any councilor comments? Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, one and all. First of all, I'd like to thank our fire chief for inviting city councilors to attend the promotion ceremony held recently for some of our amazing first responders. To all of you out there who respond to dangers, I just want to say thank you so much for taking on this courageous work. And I also appreciate that there was acknowledgement and recognition for the important work that our administrative professionals do behind the scenes. So that was a lovely ceremony. Wonderful to see all the families in attendance. Next, I was one of several councilors and our mayor-elect to attend the League of Oregon Cities conference in Bend. Lots of takeaways from that conference. The one that I'll share for this night had to do with homelessness. It's not unique to Salem. No matter which counselor I talked to, no matter what city they were from, big or small, Silverton, Canyonville, Canby, Beaverton, Grants Pass, no matter which city councilor or mayor who was present or whom I talked to personally, all of them are struggling with how to respond to homelessness with limited resources in the state that we find ourselves in today. And it does hit close to home. One of the communities that I know that is struggling with homelessness is the city of Keizer. I work in Keizer every day, and as just one of many examples, unfortunately, we've had a number of individuals who appear to be experiencing houselessness on our property. We had one woman who was trying to keep warm the other night, and she had a steel canister of some kind in front of her, and she had lit a small fire to stay warm. She had all of her personal belongings heaped high in a shopping cart next to her. And so this is just a powerful reminder that homelessness is a challenge across our entire state, and it is incumbent upon all of us policymakers to work together to find solutions that work. And speaking of homelessness, earlier today, I was interviewed as part of a 4-part mini-series on homelessness right here in Salem. It's pioneered by Jacob Espinosa behind the What's Happening Salem podcast. You should give it a listen, better yet, subscribe. The What's Happening Salem podcast has already interviewed our city manager. He's interviewed Councilor Stapleton, and he has many other interviews coming up. Filmmaker Damian Byington is teaming up with Mr. Espinosa on this mini-series, and I look forward to watching it. There are a lot of folks who were interviewed, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Here in Salem City Hall, I'm proud of the fact that we have voted time and time again to increase shelter beds, increase affordable housing, and increase access to case management services. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Are there additional comments? Councilor Varney.
Thank you very much. And thank you for that rundown. There were a lot of things. I was at the conference too, and it was very, very helpful. Yeah, lots of good ideas. Anyway, tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about transparency and building trust. It's a topic that arises often in council, outside of council, et cetera. First of all, I wanted to thank Salem Reporter for publishing the article that they did last week about the recent hearing that we had and eliminating an issue that I think a lot of people think about is in terms of influences on the policy decisions and other decisions we make. And I wanted to say how much I appreciate them bringing this forward and getting the conversation going, because transparency is such a big part of that. And I appreciate them doing the follow-up so that there were some areas where were some facts that were just kind of incomplete. And I wanted to say I feel that's a very important part of it too. As you learn more about something, either your opinion can be altered or you can change it a little bit, because there's always stuff. A lot of times there's stuff going on that you just don't know about. As I stated in the first article that came out, I wasn't comfortable with the councilor's decision to participate in the hearing once the topic of being related to money basically was implied or came up during deliberations. And the reason is because each of us takes an oath of office to uphold Constitution, laws, our city charter, our city rules, our council rules. And I respect each councilor's individual interpretation of those rules. Each of us has different experiences and training which can affect how we perceive those. And we're all entitled to our perspectives. For me, as you all know, I'm detail-oriented, and I ask a lot of questions. But it's not just because I'm a scientist. It's also because for the past 13 years, I have been a contract enforcement specialist. And basically, I interpret contract language and bargaining agreements and investigate violations in those mutually agreed to contracts. So when I challenge everybody with and they reviewed the applications they had, and in mid-July recommended 3 of the 5 or 6 existing applicants. Because of summer schedules and commitments, we were delayed in interviewing the candidates, but it was finally scheduled to occur on September 16th. We also had a regular city council meeting scheduled for the week before, on the 9th of September. A few days before the 9th city council meeting, Councilor Hoy submitted a motion she wanted to bring before council. The motion was basically the information to have it put on the agenda. The motion was to ask councilors to review all current applications and for the council to consider interviewing additional ones. The Sunday before the September 9th meeting, Councilor Hoy contacted me about her motion, which is a normal practice. We occasionally reach out to one another and to kind of garner support for things that we're bringing forward and to answer questions. I told her that I didn't understand the reasoning for the last-minute change because if I'm going to vote on changing something, I'd kind of like to know why when things are brought up suddenly. Usually there's a reason. And the only reason that she gave me was that because all 3 of the applicants were not qualified. So the day of the council meeting on September 9th, a listing of all the current Planning Commission applicants and their applications was distributed to all the councilors. I was surprised to see 15 names on the list. Normally, we get 1 per month, if that, because Planning Commission is a very demanding position. It takes a lot of time and a willingness to dive into details associated with land use actions, and we all know how complicated those can be. But what I found most interesting were the time and date stamps associated with the submission for those applications. 8 of those submissions occurred in the 5-day time span. 8 of them occurred in the 5-day time span after the Planning Commission decision on the Creekside land use application, which eventually led to the appeal and the hearing that we had a couple of weeks ago. It was great to have so much interest, but the short time frame of the submissions stood out to me as being unusual. I think of science, cause, and effect. I mean, if we have a river with a bunch of fish in it and all of a sudden something happens and there are a lot of dead fish in this pool, you know, we go figure out what's different, what caused that. So to me, I was thinking, was there a connection between this whole horde of applicants coming in and the decision and what was coming up in terms of the motion? But I don't know whether there was a connection or not between the decision and the flood of applicants. The appearance of such bothered me, and I don't know who I need to talk to, but I would like to hear a reasonable explanation of those coincidences. I bring this up because I truly believe in transparency in our decision-making processes, and these actions impact all of us.
Thank you, Councilor. Are there further comments? Councilor Stapleton.
Thank you. I too wanted to speak about the vote that happened at our last meeting. I've gotten a couple of folks in my ward to reach out to me and share their concerns about what transpired at our last meeting. So I've taken a few moments here to write down my thoughts on this, and so I'll go ahead and read those now. I want to take a few minutes to express my disappointment with 2 of my fellow councilors. Upholding our city charter has been the utmost importance to me as a councilor, and to watch Councilor Hoy and Councilor Gwynn knowingly go against the charter at our last meeting was deeply disturbing. It wasn't until the morning after that I really had a moment to let what happened sink in. I remember taking my oath of office and holding up my right hand, pledging to uphold the U.S. Constitution, the Oregon Constitution, as well as our city charter. It was baffling to me that 2 of my colleagues would knowingly violate that oath. During Councilor Hoy's comments at our last meeting, she reflected on the idea that money was free speech and that our limit of $501 was not important, claiming that someone who gives tens of thousands of dollars is no different than someone who gives $25. I believe that is utter nonsense. The $501 limit is vital to us being able to ensure that every voice in our community matters and holds the same weight, because we know that money equals power. Someone who can donate tens of thousands of dollars to a mayoral race has a very different life situation than someone who can only give $25. More than likely, that wealthy person is going to have business in front of the council, hence our rules, which bring transparency to the process and builds trust in our communities. I've been frustrated with Councilor Hoy's unwillingness to follow the rules time after time. Previously with Councilor Hoy trying to influence how the city manager was awarding contracts, and now with this, our city charter. I'm baffled by the brazen way in which she disregards the rules, as if they don't apply to her. She frequently speaks about the need for transparency and trust, yet her actions repeatedly show that she has no interest in either of those when it comes to her and the people who support her. Someone asked me recently if I believe the idea that Larry Tokarski didn't personally benefit from the vote, and my answer is no, I don't. He has a personal financial interest and therefore does directly benefit. This is a great example of the Good Old Boys Club in action, proving that Councilor Hoy and Councilor Gwynn's votes can be bought. I don't know what happens next, but I believe we as a council need to ensure that this doesn't happen again. I'm sad to think that the people of Salem will have to continue to stand on guard and watch out for corruption over the next 2 years. The rules apply to everyone, and I feel it's important we defend the city charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Are there additional comments? Councilor Phillips.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the comments from my colleagues. I guess I'm going to start by talking about the topic that's been brought up by two of my colleagues. So recently, there was a land use decision that this body weighed in on because there was an appeal. This isn't about the fact that I was in the minority and I voted against it. This is, I'm not disappointed, but I am kind of frustrated. We do take an oath to, uphold the Constitution, the laws of the state of Oregon, as well as our city charter. And there are things that are written down in the charter that, to me, make it relatively clear that, if a contribution has been received for more than $500, the 501 previously referenced, that, the norm prior to this council and the expectation is that people just say, hey, look, I got that contribution. And, that's an actual conflict of interest according to the definitions within our city charter, and then to recuse themselves. I guess I'm frustrated not because I wanted to win that vote. Like I said in the middle of that meeting, my vote in that case was in solidarity with the Planning Commission, and it was not strong. I'm not planning to push back on the acceptance and the consent agenda tonight, but it's just my frustration with this move in society to, the different, levels of access people have to making decisions in their community when it comes to big interests with lots of money influencing politics, not just here locally, but at every level. I don't know if what's coming next is a legal appeal that, challenges our city charter in light of the Supreme Court decision of the Citizens United finding that the Supreme Court did. I don't know if you can enforce the rules that we have, but as a member of this body, if I had gotten that contribution, regardless of my thoughts on it, I would have recused myself. Now, I did make an announcement in that process that I had a potential conflict of interest because I have a family member. One of my children is a youth member of the local golf course where this decision involved. I think that it's just so baffling to me because it would have prevailed. Even with the 2 votes against it, being able to argue the case based on the merits, it would have still passed. And if it had been a tie vote, then I would have probably reconsidered where I was at. So I just encourage all of us to try to follow those rules, or go through the process of trying to change the rules. If you really think that it's important that getting, thousands of dollars doesn't influence it and the city charter is wrong, then go through the process of changing the city charter or making an amendment or going through that process so that we all agree to what the rules are ahead of time. My personal worldview is I made a commitment to take no money from political, no money from corporation PACs, political action committees. Now that's my personal belief. I don't think everybody has to do that, but I think that, I want to stand up for the neighbors and neighborhoods that I represent. And I think that like big interests, while important partners for a lot of good things, we need more housing in this community, they have more influence than your average neighbor or neighborhood. So, I'm frustrated that happened. I didn't get a chance to like say anything to the media. I'm not disappointed, but I am frustrated. I think we should all follow the rules, and it's up to our body to make sure that happens. Kind of getting off that issue, moving on to the next thing. I had a great event yesterday with my son at said golf course, and it was really fun to hang out and experience northwest weather and get rained on. But we had a great dinner afterwards at the Creekside Golf Course. It's a great place. People should check into it. I didn't get any money from them. When I got home, the news, though, kind of caught up to me. And I don't know what I'm going to say next, but I'm going to do my best. So my name is Trevor Phillips, Dr. Phillips. I'm the ward counselor for Ward 3, and I am deeply concerned about what happens over the next 8 days plus. I saw two of the most interesting and or moving events when it comes to politics this last weekend. If people have not yet seen Michelle Obama speak on Saturday, you should watch it. She is known for giving historic speeches, and that is by far the best I've ever seen. It was incredibly human. Her plea to do something, to vote, was from the core of her being, and I'm largely supportive of like what she was trying to say and do. The counterpoint, though, is yesterday's event. Like, this body has voted that in past, not necessarily this 2-year cycle, but we've voted that healthcare is a fundamental human right. We have voted that, racism is a threat to public health. And there were things said and done during the event at Madison Square Garden that meet the textbook definition of bigotry and racism. And those events aren't like, that's not a coincidence. Saying that that's a joke it's a sick joke. It's not a joke. Those things are vetted. So that is wrong. Wrong things are wrong and good things are good. So without explicitly telling people how to vote, I encourage everybody to check those things out and then to vote this cycle, not just at the top of the ticket, but for everything. Your vote is your voice. It matters. And there are consequences to those votes. So please get involved, look into this stuff, and get your ballots in here locally by 8 p.m. on Election Day if you're going to a ballot drop box. And then I'm not sure if it's still recommended to vote a week in advance, or like probably I wouldn't mail it much later than tomorrow or Wednesday. But everybody should try to vote and really look into what's going on. So vote, vote, vote. That's the last I have to say.
Thank you, Councilor. Are there additional comments? Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Just wanted to remind everybody that we do have a budget committee meeting on Wednesday evening. It will be in this room. It will be starting at 6 p.m. Our CFO, Josh Uggleston, will be presenting the 5-year financial forecast. The meeting will be facilitated by Colleen, our well-known facilitator from Moss Adams. And I will primarily be looking for an opportunity for you and the Budget Committee members to learn about our recent survey, our financial forecast, and get a sense of the principles and priorities that I need to use in order to develop next year's budget. And I'm going to need all the help that I can get. So I will see you on Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have Councilor Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a good news report. Officers working with ICAP, the Intelligence, Communication, and Planning Area, in overtime, specifically working in the high crime area associated with problems displayed at Lancaster and Sunnyview, which you all have heard me talk about a lot. Officers believed some of the activity was a result of a nearby house. Surveillance was conducted, and a vehicle was stopped a distance away from minor traffic violations. Through investigation, officers searched and located several firearms. The driver denied consent after evidence of drug use and possession were found. A search warrant resulted in the evidence found. The female passenger was arrested on 5 warrants, and the driver will be searched for. $6,279 was recovered, 144 grams of meth, 241 grams of fentanyl, scales and packaging material, 3 handguns, and 1 stolen rifle. And that's 1 car in Northeast Salem. So I just want to say thank you to the Salem Police Department, to the officers who do such a great job for us without enough help. So as a resident of Northeast Salem, thank you very much. It's quite the photo.
Thank you, Councilor. Are there additional comments? All right. We have no proclamations or presentations. It's now time for public comment. First up, we have Tom Hoffert. If you'd come on up to the podium, be sure and introduce yourself with either your name and either your address or your ward. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes. When the yellow light starts to flash, that means you have 1 minute left. When the red light comes on, that means your time's expired. Please stop talking at that time. Hit that button for me and turn the microphone on if you would. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Tom Hoffert, and I serve as CEO of the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce, located in Ward 1. We were deeply concerned in seeing the agenda item 5A on tonight's special orders of business. From the limited information we've been provided by City Manager Staley, this proposal is intended to dive into the challenging and incredibly difficult topic stemming from human trafficking. Our organization, of course, would unite with our entire community wishing that was not occurring on our I-5 corridor. As explained, the FBI has advised City Councilor Stapleton the first step in addressing trafficking crisis would be a business registration establishment. I would hope Councilor Stapleton would be able to share these communications recommendations with fellow council members, the affected business community, and local law enforcement. As I mentioned, we'd all like to eradicate that from our community. The Oregon Secretary of State's office has the Corporations Division, where every and any kind of business operating in Oregon is required to register and provide an agent of record. The identified agent is responsible for receiving all legal notices issued by the state of Oregon. The infrastructure for identifying all businesses operating Salem is already in place, and businesses already pay a business license fee when they register with the state. If nefarious business were to be able to obtain a state business license registered with the Secretary of State's office, providing the owner's name, address, and the registered agent, while operating undetected and concealing their criminal activities, then we are unsure how Salem could establish a cost-neutral program that would uncover their criminality. This might be a discussion to be had with our new Secretary of State and Attorney General, both who have resources to address and prosecute these issues. Small businesses already shoulder a considerable burden of regulatory compliance while attempting to keep their businesses profitable and seeking new opportunities. We are concerned about any additional bureaucratic hurdles. Most small businesses do not have an HR or a legal department to handle compliance issues, and the owners themselves do their best to comply in the ever-changing landscape of the business environment. The time they spend in compliance issue takes them away from what they do best, operating their business, providing jobs and paychecks, and serving our community. While it is proposed to be a cost-neutral business license program, the business community will need to fully understand and engage in any such discussions. Because the business community is not aware of this proposal in great detail, and because several city council members here tonight may not be in their respective positions come January, we advise that the council table this until after January's council is in place, and trafficking may be included with the full array of budget priorities for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bechtel, if you're going to sit in that seat, I need your fingers on the buttons, please.
Did I run over, Mayor? My apologies. I was not looking at the clock.
No, you did. You were perfect. No,
okay.
We just didn't have the lights to guide you, but we're going to now. Thank you. Next up is Lori Doherty. That's the burden of sitting in seat 1 there. You got to run the lights. If you'd hit that button for me, Lori, so the green light comes on. We'll get technical help there for you.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Hoy and members of the Salem City Council. My name is Lori Doherty. I live in Ward 1, and I am a co-coordinator of 350 Salem, Oregon, the local affiliate of International Climate Action Organization 350.org. We are excited to see and support Agenda Item 3.3D, the application for funding from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency under their Environmental and Climate Justice Community Change Grant Program. The application includes funding for resilience hubs and for energy efficiency upgrades for low-income housing. Resilient hubs help to maintain a community's ability to provide for health, safety, communications, and other basic needs when disasters hit. Climate change increases the risk of catastrophic events from extreme heat, wildfires, and floods. Here in Oregon, we are already experiencing some of these harmful impacts and can expect more. When such urgent conditions are not present, a resilience hub can provide a community space for meetings, social events, youth programs, and other activities that build relationships among residents and strengthen communities. The inclusion of sub-grants available to community-based organizations is a great feature of this grant application because it would bring emergency services to trusted spaces and improve those organizations' capacity for service to their constituents and neighbors. The funding for energy efficiency upgrades for low-income housing will contribute to two key avenues of climate action: mitigation and adaptation. These projects contribute to mitigation by reducing energy use and to adaptation by reducing energy costs and improving the ability to withstand extreme weather events. We look forward to a successful outcome for this grant proposal, and we thank City staff for preparing this application and thank the City Council for your consideration.
Thank you, Lori. Chris McGee.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Chris McGee. As a representative of the Carpenters Union, I am here to discuss the significant benefits of a cost-neutral business license program for Salem. This initiative is not just a positive step forward, it is a move that can greatly enhance our community and actually support local businesses. First and foremost, a cost-neutral program encourages compliance. When businesses find the licensing process straightforward, they are most likely to comply with the regulations. This leads to better oversight and ensures that all businesses, big and small, are operating at a level playing field. This is no different than with compliant, non-compliant contractors on construction projects. Increased compliance also means more revenue from fines and penalties for those who do not follow the rules, which can be reinvested into our communities. Moreover, such programs can facilitate data sharing and efficiency. For an example, in California, cities share business license data with state tax boards, helping to identify unlicensed businesses and those not filing required tax returns. This kind of collaboration improves overall compliance and makes the system more efficient. Additionally, a cost-neutral program can lead to administrative savings by streamlining the licensing process. Cities can reduce the costs associated with managing business licenses. These savings can be redirected to other essential services that benefit all residents. In conclusion, a cost-neutral business license program is a win-win for our city. It promotes fairness and actually can benefit the business. Just one example of that is credibility and trust. A licensed business often appears more credible and trustworthy to customers, suppliers, and partners. This can enhance the business's reputation and potentially attract more clients. It will ensure that we leave the resources to invest in public services. So let's work together to implement this program and build a stronger, more prosperous community for everyone. I want to thank you for your time, and I also want to thank you for what you all do. Thank you.
Thank you. Ray Quisenberry.
Okay, yeah. Hello, everyone, and thanks for this opportunity, Mayor Hoy and City Councils. My name is Ray Quisenberry, and I live in Ward 1. And I'm speaking tonight on agenda item 3.3D, that's the application for the grant funding under the Climate Justice Change Grants Program that Ms. Doherty just spoke of. And she stole most of my thunder, by the way. I'll start by saying thank you to the city staff. I really appreciate what they're doing, and to the Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency for partnering on this $20 million grant. For someone who has been closely following the development and implementation of the Salem Climate Action Plan, I'm excited that this federal grant will allow us to move forward on resiliency hubs and help our low-income neighbors with their home energy efficiency upgrades. It's saved them quite a bit of money and improved their lives, and I'm always for that. Fighting climate change is in an equitable way, and protecting our community from its impacts is so critical as we move forward. So I strongly encourage the council to vote to pursue this grant. Luckily, there are no negative impacts on the city budget, but a very positive impact on all of us. Let's hope for more opportunities like this, and that the federal government maintains its commitment to climate action for our future and for the future of our children. So thank you, and I really want to thank the city staff for all the work they do on this and everything else they do. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up is John Snyder.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is John Snyder. I am a local union carpenter, and I'm here today to voice my strong support for the cost-neutral business license. Someone who has worked in the trades for years, I've seen firsthand the damage done by irresponsible contractors roll into town, undercutting honest local businesses and workers by breaking or bending the rules. A business license mandate is long overdue. Tax and wage fraud are serious issues in our industry. Too often we see labor brokers come into Salem, pay their workers under the table, ignore fair labor practice, and avoid paying taxes that keep our community running. This policy will allow Salem to hold businesses accountable to basic standards for health, safety, and fair pay. This isn't about creating a barrier for legitimate businesses. It's about leveling the playing field so that everyone who works in Salem does so responsibly and pays their fair share. The cost-neutral business license isn't a cash grab. It's a necessary tool to protect our city, our local businesses, and our workers. In closing, I urge you to support the cost-neutral business license. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Eric Morgan.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors, and staff. For the record, my name is Eric Morgan. I'm a representative for the Western States Carpenters Union, and I will be speaking in favor for the regulatory business license ordinance. You've heard many reasons why this is beneficial to the city, so I'll get straight to the point. Those who come to seek profit in our community should be invested in this community. They should hold a business license here, and there should not be an advantage for contractors or businesses that come from outside the city, regardless of the time frame. Whether you're a small drywall company that is coming here for a quick 2-day job, or you're a well-established business, we believe that if you are wanting to participate in the community wealth of Salem, then you need to be part of this community. And we see this as a very positive step in reinforcing that. And I want to applaud Councilor Stapleton for her commitment to transparency within the city of Salem, and I urge the rest of the council to do the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the public comment under the first item. We're now onto the consent calendar. Councilor Nishioka.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Hoy. I move to approve the consent calendar with the exceptions of item 3.3D pulled by Councilor Phillips and item 3.3F pulled by Councilor Nishioka.
Second.
Motion by Nishioka, second by Phillips. Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. The consent calendar consists of 3.1A, the October 14th, 2024 draft City Council minutes, 3.1B, October 21st, 2024, draft City Council work session minutes. 3.2A, redesignation of the City of Salem Electronic Commercial Zone. 3.3A, collective bargaining agreement between the City of Salem and the Salem Police Union Sergeants. 3.3B, collective bargaining agreement between City of Salem and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. 3.3C, compensation adjustments for the represented and non-represented classifications and creation of new classification and pay grades. 3.3E, correcting the terms of planning commission positions. 3.3G, adoption of the final order number 2024-3 PDU-SUB PAR UGA ADJ 24-01, modifying the Planning Commission's decision approving planned unit development subdivision tentative plan, partition tentative plan, urban growth preliminary declaration, and Class 2 adjustment case and for property and location at the 700 to 800 blocks of Creekside Drive. And 3.3H, appointments to the Citizen Budget Committee. And that concludes the consent calendar.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Stapleton.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to, again, be transparent about item 3.3B. Of course, AFSCME has endorsed my candidacy for the Oregon State House and has given to my campaign a sizable amount. So I wanted to be transparent here, but we'll also be continuing to vote on this. I also did want to, well, I guess we already pulled it, so I'll talk about the other one later, but excited about the grant that we're applying for.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Councilor Hoy.
Thank you. I just have a question for the city attorney. The, 3.3G, the Planning Commission's decision approving planned unit development subdivision Creekside property, is that right? Is that the same property that was mentioned in opening remarks?
That's correct. So we had the public hearing where council voted at the end of the public hearing to approve the application with that modification, and this is the written final order that we're required to issue, so the decision's final.
And because we're going to be voting on that, is it important to disclose campaign donations again? Or?
The requirement to disclose the campaign donations occurred at the hearing, so this isn't the hearing, this is just adopting the final order. Essentially what we're asking council is whether the final order accurately memorializes the action that council took at the hearing. So no, there's no requirement at this point.
Thank you, just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordike. Aye. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, we have no public hearings, so we're on to special orders of business. Item 5A, Councilor Stapleton.
Thank you so much. I move that the City Council direct staff to provide a report to Council identifying the necessary steps and analysis of the relevant issues to create a business license requirement in the city.
Second.
Motion by Stapleton, second by Phillips. Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. I wanted to start this off by taking us on a journey of how we even got here to begin with. It has been a long journey for me personally. It started all the way back when I was first voted to be a city councilor, and I was having regular meetings with the previous councilor for Ward 1. Her name is Keizer, and she was sharing with me about her frustration about the illicit massage parlors in our ward, Ward 1, and really the inability that she had, or she just didn't have any kind of way to make movement on this and was really frustrated by it. So it was the first time I had heard about it. I continued to hear about it at different neighborhood association meetings, and when police officers would be there, I would regularly ask them for updates, and all I ever heard was that it's under investigation and, we'll know more later. And that was really quite the frustrating answer for me personally. It was later that I learned more about human trafficking that's happening in the city of Salem, not only in our construction trade, but also with the illicit massage parlors and in our restaurants. So really learned more about a really troubling trend that's happening here in Oregon. It was at that point in time that I reached out to our police chief, who directed me to the FBI, and thank you so much for connecting us. The mayor and I met with the FBI and talked about the issues here. And from that work, the mayor brought forward a transparency ordinance, which really addressed the construction industry, where the city money was coming into contact with that issue. And so that was fantastic work, and I have heard that other cities have asked for that ordinance and are looking at passing that. So I think the city of Salem should be really proud of the work that we've done on this. I believe we were the first city in Oregon to pass such a transparency ordinance. So I'm really proud of that. A couple of weeks ago, I saw that the Willamette Week article that came out about illicit massage parlors across the state. And it really spurred me into action yet again, trying to see what I can do with the time that I have left here on council to help address this really troubling trend. I had another meeting with the FBI, and we outlined some steps to move forward. And this was the first step that we came up with. So I want to be really clear that majority of businesses are valuable members of our community and are not participating in human trafficking. But it's up to us as a community to hold bad actors accountable. To do nothing would mean to knowingly turn a blind eye to illegal activities and the suffering of others. There are other benefits to requiring business licenses, and they are considered best practices for cities for several key reasons. It ensures businesses adhere to local, state, and federal laws, including health, safety, and zoning regulations, protecting the public and the environment. Licensing assures customers that businesses are legitimate, qualified, and operating ethically, which fosters trust and confidence in the marketplace. Licensing fees would be designed for cost recovery, ensuring that the program is budget neutral while providing the necessary funding for the regulatory permit process. A licensing system helps the city keep accurate records for the types and numbers of businesses operating, allowing for better planning, policy development, and resource allocation. Those same accurate records help our public safety officers connect with business owners in emergency situations. It also enables the city to monitor businesses with health or safety risks and ensure that they comply with safety standards. Licensing also allows the city to screen for unethical and illegal activities and ensure that all are operating under the same rules. Licensed businesses are more likely to benefit from city resources such as economic development programs, business grants, or city-backed initiatives. In cases of compliance or legal issues, the city has a clear avenue to address disputes between businesses and consumers or themselves. By requiring business licenses, cities create a business environment that benefits the community, consumers, and businesses alike. I know that at this late stage in my time on council that I won't be able to see this through to the end, but I can do what I can with the time that I have left. Some say that the timing is off, that businesses can't handle a small fee right now, but I can't sit back and let human trafficking continue in the city when I had a chance to take steps to address the problem. I cannot sit back and let human traffickers feel comfortable doing business in the city of Salem. I am not alone. There are others on council who agree with me and who are willing to do the courageous work of leadership instead of continuing to promote the status quo and a do-nothing attitude. We cannot continue to deny that human trafficking is happening here in our community, and our community members must feel confident that their leadership, this council, is doing everything we can to tackle the issue. Thank you so much for hearing me out, and I hope that you will join me in support of this motion.
Thank you, Councilor. And if I understood your motion correctly, this basically just it opens the conversation as staff is going to start doing some work and considering potential language. This doesn't implement anything at this point, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I've asked for a report to see how the necessary steps that we need to take in order to get there. I did have a date on it because I am optimistic and I always dream of getting things done faster than they actually take. But in consultation with the city manager, we've taken off that date because I really want to make sure that staff have the time to really look at this issue and come up with a really reasonable step forward. I know that it would most likely come back to the council in the form of an informational report to which it would need to be called up for a public hearing. And then, of course, that would go through the public process as well.
Thank you. I think as part of that, it would be interesting information to know what our comparable cities do in this regard, like who else has a business license, who doesn't. I think that would be helpful information to have.
I agree.
Thanks. Is there further discussion? Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you so much. And just to piggyback on your comments, Mr. Mayor, I would note that the League of Oregon Cities has a sample model ordinance. So there is a precedent for business licensing fees. And there are also recommendations from the League of Oregon Cities, which is intended to serve all cities. Did you notice how I just slowed down? As a reminder, we've all been told we have people translating what we're saying. So I'm slowing down in deference to ensure that folks can be heard. All right, so cities, small and large, have mom and pops and considerably larger businesses, right? And if we're directing staff to prepare a report, it's the mom and pops, it's the small businesses that I'm particularly concerned with. My father's a small business owner in Salem. We all know small business owners in Salem. And I am very mindful of the fact that a lot of these businesses operate on a razor-thin profit margin. So I am mindful of how even seemingly small fees here and there can add up. So I first want to recognize that. I also want to recognize the fact that we had a lot of public testimony on this tonight, which tells me that we're ripe for a staff report. That, to me, is the tip of the iceberg. When you have that many people sign up on an agenda item, it means that there is greater interest from our community in exploring this further and assessing its merits. No one, by making this motion tonight, is agreeing to an ordinance that none of us have seen. But I think asking staff to do a report feels appropriate to me and transparent, which is something that this council very much values. I acknowledge and recognize the concerns brought forward by the Chamber of Commerce about this, and I would like the city staff to take those concerns to heart and do their best to address those concerns as part of a staff report. For example, if we already have statewide licensure, and yes, of course we do, how come that's not addressing the needs that are going on right now? Why is it that a city-level ordinance could make a difference in human trafficking where statewide requirements for business licensing have not? So I think that's a fair question. I think that's worth bringing forward. And the final point I want to make, in my day job, my office regularly attends the Marion County Human Trafficking Task Force meetings. Human trafficking is real, and it's happening right here in Salem. And women, children, young adults are most directly impacted by this. These folks live in the shadows. There's no neon sign advertising human trafficking out there. So it's easy to believe that it could never happen here. But of course, it does happen here. That's why the task force continues to meet as often as it does. So I would like to see what the FBI is recommending. I would like to see the concerns addressed from the Chamber of Commerce. And I would like to acknowledge the public testimony that we've received tonight urging us to explore this further. So for all those reasons, I will be voting in favor of a staff report.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there further discussion? Councilor Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilor Stapleton, for the motion. I've been clocking this issue since pretty early in my time on this four-year term as a city councilor, and I remain in favor of it. You know, like, I think that there might be an assumption that, like, because the state of Oregon has a business licensure, that we have like access to that and can use that information, or that because we have other, you know, entities in our community that they effectively do the same thing. But, you know, other communities in our state already have this in place. There is language from the League of Oregon Cities on how to do this moving forward. And I think there's a reason for that. You know, my experience has been based on input from like high-level staff, whether it's the chief of police or the fire chief, you know, that we've had in past, that there's a benefit for communication and safety that goes above and beyond even human trafficking. I was almost surprised when that concept was introduced tonight, but it took me a couple seconds to remember like how it relates to some recent events. Yes, human trafficking is real, and this would be like another tool that could combat that. But even if that wasn't an issue, this is still incredibly beneficial for communicating what city services are available to help local businesses. I think that was mentioned in your comments. It's incredibly helpful for like safety and crime reduction in terms of giving police and fire and EMS a point of contact in our community to interface with. So I'm very supportive of starting the process and just getting a report back so that we can move forward on this issue. My educated guess is it has broad community support from regular citizens and voters in our community. I think it's potentially very beneficial. My one recommendation, I don't think it'll probably come back in my last 2 months on council. My 4-year term is coming up, but it's something that I would think could go to a work session. I mean, I think that this has substantial benefit. I've heard people recommend it on prior budget committees that we've had in years past. I've heard people say that even if there was almost no fee, and we can't afford that as a city, that's my understanding of the facts, is that we don't have enough money, so we can't just pay for it ourselves. But that having it is so beneficial in terms of facilitating communication and more cohesion in our community that it just has such tremendous benefit. I can imagine that there's a concern that it might cause an increase in taxes, but that's not the main intent. The main intent is just to give us more tools for communicating and making sure people are following the rules locally. So I look forward to hearing more, both as a counselor and soon to be not a counselor. So yeah, I'm an emphatic yes.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? Councilor Gonzalez.
I just don't believe it's about human trafficking. I don't believe that. The city of Woodburn has a business license fee, and that past mayor and the state rep, someone that was running for state office, got caught at a illegal massage parlor. So the business license requirement didn't change anything there. And there's this thing we can't find out who business owners are. How do we get a hold of them? It's invisible. We need to pry a little further to get. Most of the business information's online. Websites, emails. It's not really hard. It's not really difficult to get that information. And also there's the Oregon Board of Massage Therapists. They have their own licensing and enforcement process. And so I felt initially bad, for these other law-abiding massage therapists to have to pay for what a few people illegally are doing, which is impossible. They're going to keep being in the shadows. Let alone 1,000 businesses to start having to pay another fee. And really, the concept of a city business license fee has been brought up as a way to increase revenue, even though it's, there's this fancy word called cost neutral. That's a play on words, in my opinion. So that's how I see this. And really, these license fees it's no longer a real viable option in this world today. For example, it's just not fair for today's world. The internet has changed what it means to be doing business in Salem. It's changed. So for example, a small restaurant is going to pay, but not HelloFresh, which delivers meals to people in Salem. A local mortgage office will pay, but not Rocket Mortgage, which is a $1 billion company that does mortgages in our backyard, left and right. Downtown retailer is going to pay, but people from all over the world that sell products into Salem, like through Etsy, Amazon, they're not going to pay. Local lottery retailers, people that sell our, the state's lottery, they'll pay, but not the big gambling companies. They're not going to pay. So that's why I worry about this, because as we talked about at the last meeting, where as we start looking at revenue options, what was clear from that meeting to me was we need partnerships, collaborations with everybody to even think about raising revenue in the future. Even to even think about it, to go out, divide it into the community, to actually ask for revenue. And we're going to need our business associations. And so I think this is just sort of a waste of time. I think to try to tackle human trafficking, it's not going to solve it. I don't know what the FBI is doing. I haven't seen it, so I'm curious. But I don't think that's going to work. And to be burning bridges with our business community right now is the last thing we need. So, thank you.
Further discussion? Councilor Varney.
Thank you. I really don't have too much to add. I do support looking into this. I appreciate all the comments. I think it's important to know the numbers and types of businesses that we have for trend tracking, and also to ensure better compliance with state and federal laws for inspections and licensing. I think one of the key points is aiding enforcement in addressing criminal activity. Sure, businesses can be online and whatever and look it up, but when time is of the essence, all of a sudden there's a break-in, a burglary, a something or other, and you can't figure out who it is, you don't have time to go to the internet necessarily and look it up. So I really think that knowing that we have a monitoring tool to aid in enforcement would help our business community with marketing more businesses, because we would be more welcoming and safe in terms of a business community.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there further discussion? Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. I will be voting in favor of this. I have been very surprised that the city of Salem does not have business licensing currently. And again, when I came on council, I was surprised about this. I feel that it will help protect the community, and and I believe it can also promote economic development. I have 5 LLCs, and recently the feds are now requiring additional information to ensure that small LLCs are not laundering money. And it's called the Beneficial Ownership Information Report. And so I had the luxury of having an attorney help me with those. But again, it points out that there is evidence that there is laundering, and government agencies are trying to find ways to mitigate that. I do feel that it would be important to see what report our staff can bring back to us, and then we can finalize some of those details. But for now, I will be in support of this.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there further discussion? Councilor Varney.
I just wanted to add, when it says cost neutral, I'm assuming that the staff report will have cost estimates for things in it, I would suppose. And I would like to see, not only just the how much it costs to process the paperwork or whatever, but also to include an enforcement position to help enforce it, whether that be under code compliance. Another thing I think that would be very important would be to establish an anonymous tip line to help encourage reporting.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Gwynn.
For many of the reasons that Councilor Gonzalez just mentioned, I will not be in support of the motion. But it sounds like this is going to pass regardless. So one of the questions that I would like to see addressed, like the gentleman from the contractors talked about out-of-area businesses and people that are in town doing work for 1 or 2 days, and that would be the expectation that they would pay a business licensing fee as well. I guess I'd like to know how far in the weeds is this going to go? And like a physician can be licensed independently from the business that they work for. So is it the business, or is it each individual, like subcontractor would have to have a business license? And so I would like that included if it sounds like this is going this direction. So that's it.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Councilor Hoy.
Thank you. I sent an email to Councilor Stapleton and Nishioka and City Manager Staley last night, and I didn't get a reply until after 1 o'clock today from Councilor Nishioka and the City Manager. This is the email that I sent. I think this motion should wait. With Measure 118 on the ballot, along with the Shemeketa ask, the utility fee proposed increase presentation coming November 12th, the continued conversation about a revenue ask looming, those things, coupled with the 60% disapproval rating on the polling results just last week, seems like now is a bad time to ask for anything. Councilor Stapleton, I asked, what does it mean in your discussion remarks when you say a cost-neutral business license program? Does that mean whatever is collected will be spent on the program? We all know nothing is free. I realize needs vary, and a business registry would help to disrupt bad business in town. But people in business in Salem are tired. Perhaps if Measure 118 were to fail, we might have the opportunity to work from a better light. I'm aware there are bad actors flying under the radar in business in Salem, and I want them stopped decades ago. That said, added fees are concerning to all businesses. Any fee that may end up attached will fall, as every other increase does, to the consumer. There might be a better time to ask. Wanting to build trust wherever we can, please consider postponement on this matter. Thank you for listening. Disappointing to me that I didn't hear back and I had to send a second email to request a response. And I think it's appropriate for me to state that communications have been difficult since I came on to council. I think I have a total of less than 5 emails, phone call, no text message, no phone call, 5 emails from the mayor in 2 years' time. It was in a council retreat when I realized, over a discussion of council norms, that those norms have been broken many times by fellow councilors, and I have not called anyone out publicly on that. It's unacceptable. Council can be a pretty hostile work environment, and that is incredibly unfortunate because we have really important work to do. In the phone call that Councilor Varney referenced in her statement, in that conversation, I stated to Councilor Varney, I promise you, when I am in office, you will not fight. You will not have to fight to be heard. I have not been afforded that courtesy. Her response to me was, well, I hope that works for you. That, to me, is unfortunate. It's an unfortunate way to move forward. I felt it was important to shape my remarks about this particular agenda item because it's been met with the same kind of lack of communication that I promise to council and to the city manager and the councilors coming into office that you won't have to fight. You won't have to fight to be heard. Thank you.
Councilor Nishioka.
Yes, I'll just reply to that, Councilor Hoy. I had meetings up until about 1 and was also dealing with text messages from other councilors in preparation for the meeting. So I did not have an opportunity to get back to you until I did, which was, I think, as you said, about 1 or 1:30. So I apologize that it took so long, and I made that apology in my email to you. I got back to you as soon as I had the time to be able to devote to your question.
Is there further discussion? Yeah.
If I may, I can tell you that there is nobody in the room from a staff level who is waiting for a new project to work on. So we are going to have to figure out how to scope this and support this. And what I'll likely do is bring back an interim report to you that details how we will scope this project, what it will take for us to move this forward, and then seek your additional authorization to continue once we have scoped the work. I don't know if we need consulting services here. I don't know how much engagement we are going to want to have. I don't know how much legal work is going to be involved. So I want to understand all of those questions before I commit to you and start moving down the path towards adopting an ordinance or otherwise. I want to understand what our step-by-step process is going to be to deliver this to you in a way that's acceptable to you and to the community. So what I'm suggesting is that we would do this in 2 steps. 1, scoping. 2nd would be then, once we have agreement on the scope, come back with the actual report.
Councilor Phillips.
I just thank you, Mayor, and thank you for everybody's discussion and being honest. I guess I would start in a weird place. I agree, Measure 118 shouldn't pass. I think it's a bad bill. I think it was written by out-of-state people that are out of touch with Oregon. I think that there is unbelievable consensus on people who are involved in these decisions that that's how people should vote. I'm hopeful that that will work out. I get that could impact businesses and people are upset. I am too. I hope it doesn't pass. Vote no. In my own personal capacity, I'm saying that I'm not trying to put staff in a position of weirdness. Secondarily, I get that there is this isn't good enough, not now. But to me, not now feels like not ever. And, independent of the human trafficking thing, which I think this might help, I think that we have heard our police chief, our past fire chief say, there are real benefits from this. There are reasons why other communities in our state have done it, and there's a reason why there's language already available on the League of Oregon Cities. That is not a leftist organization that's trying to raise people's taxes. They're just trying to do nonpartisan government work and advocate for the best of the cities in Oregon. So I think it's good to get more information. If it turns out that because of cost constraints and our budget crisis that staff don't have the bandwidth to do this, I don't expect it to move forward. But I think we have to try to move forward to get that information so that this body can make an informed decision. I think the idea that this is going to be inherently unpopular, as a doctor who is a small business, I have my own LLC or whatever, I'd be happy to pay this. I don't know if it's $50 or $100. I get that could be a lot of money for some people, but the benefits, they're tremendous in terms of being able to communicate in an emergency, being able to communicate when something serious is happening, and to be able to get more participation in grants and stuff that the city can do. So I'm wholeheartedly in support of just getting staff's help to move this process forward and encourage us to have the option to choose a good thing. I think that we need a bit more information. I don't think we should delay getting a good thing. Good things are just good.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Stapleton.
Thank you so much. I wanted to just take a moment to respond really quickly here. I agree with Measure 118. I think that its destiny is painted out there. But I also believe that we will know more about that before staff comes back with a report. And so to me, the timing on that is not so much of a concern. I will say, Councilor Hoy, that I did get your email earlier today, but again, like Councilor Nishioka, a very busy day for me. And I did read it, though, and did recognize that you asked one question that you then immediately answered. So I knew that you understood what cost neutral meant. But just to be very clear, of course, cost neutral means that it's not a mechanism for the city to generate revenue, but that it will only cover the cost to run the program. And to that, I also wanted to respond to Councilor Gonzalez's comments. I don't really have a word per se to put with my feelings on that, but I just want to reiterate that my motives here are pure. We have been talking about this in my ward for a long time. There's one right down the street from me. And it is something that I have been talking to city staff for some time about repeatedly. And it has been something that I have wanted to take some action on to find some kind of resolution. So my motives are about human trafficking. If it was about raising revenue for the city, I would have had it not be cost neutral. It would just be very straightforward and say, I want a business license. But I know that that's not what the community wants right now, and I know that that's not what the community is really in the process of already trying to digest how we're going to move forward with our lack of revenue in the city. So that is not my motive. I was hoping that I was very clear in my statement that really this is coming from a place of trying my best to do everything I can to address a really serious issue in the city. And of course, this does nothing to implement it right now, and I recognize that the council will shift and change in the coming months. but I'm doing what I can now to live with myself as I move forward. This is a very important issue to me, and so just wanted to circle back up on those couple of points. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there further discussion? Councilor Gonzalez.
Since I already knew this was going to pass before we got here, your comment, Keith, I think something to be important to know is, since all this most information is already out there, is how much information or how much effort will be replicated, through the Secretary of State, talking about inspections and making sure, the health department's on top of the restaurant industry, the real estate agency has an enforcement mechanism for all the real estate offices. Every category does have its own, that has a license already. Multiple licenses. Some businesses have multiple licenses. They all have all those same mechanisms to ensure that these are businesses that are complying. Bringing under the license, I don't think is going to change anything as far as keeping people in line. But as long as the information is being, the information that the city initially is looking for, that it also includes what we might be replicating, what might already be being done through other agencies, just to see what it is exactly the city would do. Because as of right now, the city has no money for economic development efforts. As far as small business support, because there's different things. There's economic development with building and attracting new businesses. But as far as small business support, if you go to their website today, the city's website, it pushes it right back to organizations like the Chamber, like the LBA. It's already on our city website. Or if you go there today for small business support, it's the Chamber, it's a Latino Business Alliance. So because of whatever reason, all those death by million cuts, the city just doesn't have the staff to really offer programs for the small businesses. I can tell you, because that's the world I volunteer in all the time. So there's really nothing there. And this really, it being cost neutral, assuming that it's just going to throw money in a circle, there's really not going to be anything new. So I just want to be careful when we throw those kind of words around, because they're just really non-existent today, those services in Salem. So.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there further discussion? Well, I would just like to say I'm not really clear why the communication between myself and the councilor from Ward 6 became an issue in this discussion, but since it did, I'm going to just go ahead and respond. Councilor, the first day we met, you announced, and I was still the city councilor for Ward 6, you announced to the entire neighborhood association where you and I were present that we haven't had quality representation in our area for a number of years. That's the first thing you ever said that I heard you say out loud. And our relationship just hasn't really evolved since then. However, I did, when I became mayor, sat down with you and offered to meet with you on a monthly basis. You declined my offer. I just want that out there, since you invoked the lack of communication. I offered to meet with you like I offered to meet with every member of the council monthly, and you declined. So there's that. All right, will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Hoy.
Nay.
Councilor Nordike.
Aye.
Councilor Varney. Aye. Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Nay.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Heck no.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, item 3.3D, Councilor Phillips.
I move the staff or the city manager, authorize the city manager to submit a grant application for the Environmental and Climate Justice Community Change Grant Program in partnership with the Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency as statutory partner, and if successful, enter into an agreement with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to accept the funds.
Second.
So if I may speak to my motion?
A motion by Phillips, second by Stapleton. Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you. I pulled this to highlight it and just to briefly talk about it. I think that this is good. I emphatically support it. So this is just an application for funding. It's not receipt of said funding, but this gives us the ability to apply for $20 million to get $12 million for a resiliency hub in our community, and $8 million, I believe, for individual units, mini split, like heat pumps. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about that. I think those are both very good. As an emergency room doctor who was on shift during the last heat dome crisis that we had that led to nearly a dozen deaths in our community as an impact of heat directly, I think that this matters. And I want to put out there that, this particular grant is awesome. It's $20 million for our community, and there's no requirement for matching funds. So while it does take some staff time, staff are communicating in this that they have that bandwidth to do, and it gets our community $20 million, and it would make a real difference in terms of being safer and more resilient in the face of global warming and climate disruption. I'm not opposed to natural gas, but I think that like heat pumps are like better. And they have maybe potentially a little more upfront cost, but they create the ability for cooling in the summer, which would be critically important in light of those like heat dome type events and other climate disruption issues. And they provide warming in the winter. They are more efficient and they are better. I think the science on that is not just my opinion, but is backed up by data, which is true regardless of our opinions. So this help some people in our community that are most likely to suffer the health consequences. In that, why is climate justice talked about? Why is there this, some people, I've seen past leaders in our adjacent communities talk disparagingly about why is global warming racist? And it, makes me cringe, and it kind of hits the wrong note in my ear. So it's not that like the thing that is the physics of the increased energy and warmth in our atmosphere and oceans is that it's racist. The issue is that its impacts are not equal. If you're in a well-to-do community with trees and like air conditioning, you're probably going to be fine. But if you're in a situation where you don't have access to cooling, to shade, the parts of your town with like the asphalt and sidewalks and stuff are likely to be warmer, and the risks are more real. So I really like that this helps us tackle that moving forward. The real impacts of global warming and increased heat in our atmospheres and oceans is real. The consequences are going to be weird and intermittent. Like that heat dome, they're somewhat unpredictable in when exactly how they'll strike, but they will continue to strike. So this was just something I wanted to highlight. I wholeheartedly support it. And the fact that it's has no need for like a matching fund. There's no cost to our general fund. So this is just $20 million that is good for a problem in our community that's real. So I just want to commend staff for applying for this, for identifying it, and giving us a chance to do it. I hope we succeed.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Phillips, I feel like tonight. Dr. Professor, also counselor and proud dad. So I will miss working with you. So anywho, I just wanted to really just highlight the fact that if successful in this application, it would improve the energy efficiency in low-income housing. And what we know from our work with the Salem Housing Authority, that is a huge barrier. When you live paycheck to paycheck, or you're living off of the meager benefits that you've received over the course of your lifetime, every dollar truly counts. So energy efficiency is essential, because we don't want low-income residents to have to choose between paying for groceries, paying for a reasonable temperature or a livable temperature in their home, paying for their rent and other essentials, medical bills, and so on. And of course, it's always great to see a grant with no match requirement. I have no sense as to how competitive this grant is, and I'm well aware of the fact that an application is just that. But I do appreciate how often we see on our council agendas staff's diligent efforts to pursue money to better our city. That takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of expertise. There's an art and a science to applying for grants, especially when they have such technical requirements like those required by the EPA. So I'm excited, and anything we can do to support our low-income residents, I am a fan of. So thank you so much, and I'll be voting in favor of it and wish our staff the very best with the application process.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Nordyke. Aye. Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Heck yes.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilor Hoy?
Aye.
Mayor Hoy?
Aye, motion passes. Item 3.3F, Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. I move to authorize removal of the existing brick structure and replace with entranceway signs, welcome signs that are easier to repair or replace when damaged, with design collaboration from the Salem Public Arts Commission.
Second.
Motion by Nishioka, second by Phillips. Councilor, to your motion.
Yes, thank you. I feel that this is an opportunity for our Public Arts Commission to weigh in on sign design for Welcome to Salem. And I just felt that we were going to be removing this and have the opportunity for potentially a new sign that could maybe represent the city.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? Councilor Varney.
Not to throw something into the works, I think that's a great idea. I wish we had a roundabout there. That intersection is disastrous. Even have the sign in the middle. No, I know we couldn't do that, but I just had to say that a roundabout would be nice.
Noted. Further discussion? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Varney?
Aye.
Councilor Stapleton?
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka?
Aye.
Councilor Phillips?
Aye.
Councilor Gwen?
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilor Hoy?
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke? Aye. Mayor Hoy?
Aye, motion passes. All right, we are now on to information reports. Does anybody have anything on item 6A? Councilor Varney.
I just wanted to say,
Microphone, please.
sorry. I wanted to say, I know folks don't always look at the purchases, but I wanted to say thank you for the support for the $215,000 for the Riparian Corridor project for Goal 5. Okay, I had to point that out, and also the PFAS response plan. And for those who don't know what PFAS are, they're polyfluoroalkyl substances.
Obviously.
Just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor, are we on 6A still? Yeah, I just wanted. Hold on, I'm not looking at you, Phillips. I'm looking at Nishioka. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. Yes, I had already sent an email to Josh about and Brian Martin on the PFAS, so thank you for pointing that out.
Phillips.
I didn't intend to talk. So PFAS are forever chemicals. So they're the long-lasting chemicals that can't, be destroyed. So I just wanted to put that out there so people at home knew what that was.
Thank you. Anything else on 6A? 6B. Oh, the hands are shooting up all over the place. This is a popular item. Let's go with Gwen first.
Well, and I just wanted to say, I almost think it's unfortunate that it's only in an information report, because there's so many amazing things that are happening in the city. So maybe, do you have time to just talk briefly about the report? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I do, and we're doubling up, I think, on Councilor Nishioka's request here. So yes, Kristen Rutherford, Director of Community Planning and Development. So there can be some good-natured rivalry and competitiveness between different divisions. And the Economic Development Team, after seeing the Housing Authority, their project management report, meeting after meeting, and the content and how that's displayed, decided we can improve our quarterly reports. So they really jazzed it up this time. They took it to a whole new level. So it's gorgeous. It's got great photos. It's got great stories. It's taken it into the modern age, right? So I'll speak to a few of the projects that are included here. The first one I'll talk about is Streetscape, Downtown Streetscape. So we have so far completed 11 block faces of Downtown Streetscape. This is an urban renewal project within the Riverfront Downtown Urban Renewal Area. We have 69 block faces to go. We are spending, we're budgeting $4 million a year. We're spending about $3 million a year. Each block face is very different and has different things that we need to address. Could be more or less expensive depending how many underground vaults there are that have to be addressed. And the great thing that we're going to be getting out of the streetscape project is that we are including conduit under the sidewalk, we're including irrigation, we're including electrical connections, so that when this is done, we can light up downtown. We can have the pretty twinkle lights. We'll have irrigation so that we can water plants. When we convert to a paid parking system and have funding, we can actually have the plants and afford to maintain the plants, which we can't do with urban renewal. So it's all setting the groundwork for a major transformation in what that streetscape will look like down the road. So I'm also going to speak to some of the work that our partners at SEDCOR are doing. They've been doing some excellent work in terms of business recruitment and engagement. Agility Robotics. I don't know how many folks in the community have heard about Agility Robotics, but they started in Corvallis out of Oregon State University, and in working with SEDCOR, we found them a home out at Mill Creek, in the Mill Creek Corporate Center, also an urban renewal area. They're going to be producing around 10,000 robots a year here in Salem. So, you know, if you have nightmares about Rise of the Machines, it's happening there, right? We also have Open Dental. So they have a 40,000 square foot building that includes daycare resources for their employees. So SEDCOR's really been focusing a lot on how they can fill that gap in daycare. You know, we lost so many daycare businesses during the pandemic, and that's been identified again and again by businesses as a major struggle in recruiting and retaining their workforce and filling positions. It's that lack of access to daycare. So that's an area where they're adding value, is helping our businesses develop daycare programs or connect with daycare so that they can hire and maintain employees. And then the third thing that I'm going to speak about is some of the construction that we've had out at Mill Creek. We have two extremely large warehouse distribution facilities that are nearing completion. So we have the Dollar General site and the Genesco site, and those together are going to have several hundred jobs. I think around 700 jobs, again, out at Mill Creek. So, you know, it's just a great example of what urban renewal has accomplished in the community and how it kind of creates the canvas that then and allows the businesses to locate, the jobs to be created, and for our economy to grow. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there further questions on this item 6B? Councilor Nishioka.
Not a question, but a comment. I love that there was competition. It's beautiful. And now I expect other departments to come through. Thank you.
Anything else on 6B? 6C. Councilor Phillips.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of so I'm agnostic to either of these events. They're not in my wards, but I am following, you know, when we make variances or do things that are in variance of our tree code. So I just wanted to communicate that I interfaced with staff and got the answer to a couple of my questions on both 6C and 6D. I was reminded again, because this is like tricky. So during my 4 years, we have updated our tree code ordinances, and we have tried to make it better by, you know, making rules that are clear and objective for developers, and that if we save a tree, the tree is saved, and if we get rid of a tree, there are things you could do in lieu of that help the community, whether it's like solar panels or e-vehicle hookups or other things. There are things that you could do to make up for removing trees. You know, my goal in that process was to, I think a lot of our goal was to, not create the false hope of like, that tree's not going to make it, and we still save it for no reason. So I think we did a good thing. But what I was reminded is that these rules don't actually apply to these smaller lots. This is for subdivisions, but it is used as a guide. So that was helpful for me to be reminded of. I mean, we're losing one significant tree in 6C, and then I think 2 significant trees in 6D. And I think it's to help with like getting housing, which we need. And I had the follow-up question on 6D, which I'm jumping ahead, but they're using an arborist because a third tree has its critical root zone impacted. I wanted to make sure it wasn't an arborist who turned out to be wrong when it came to like Costco and those trees died. So, last time around, $250,000 went to moving those big giant trees that died. It would have been better if that money had just gone into like the tree fund. So I want to learn from those mistakes. And I was assured by staff that at 6D, it's not the same arborist that screwed up on Costco. So, I think we did good things. I think that there's opportunity to make our things even better by maybe looking at adding those rules when and where possible, both to save trees that need to be saved and to give the developers clear and objective standards. So if they can't save a tree because the remaining land in our community is on hills and in unique locations, that they have something they could do when they have to remove trees for the sake of housing. So if I got anything wrong, staff could feel free, but I thought it was good to be reminded of what we did do and what we didn't do. And I'm encouraged by what I read and heard from staff.
Thank you, Councilor. Anything else on either 6C or 6D? I don't see any other hands, so that concludes information reports. We're now on to ordinances. We have no first readings. We do have a second reading, so item 7.2A.
Ordinance Bill Number 1324, an ordinance relating to the Salem Tourism Promotion Area, amending sections 38.020 and 38.150. Councilor Stapleton.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Phillips.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Mayor Hoy.
Aye, motion passes. All right, now we're on to item 8, public comment. We do have a few folks signed up for that. We're going to go first online to Evan Manville. Evan, are you with us? Please introduce yourself, state your name and your address or your ward for the record. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes. You'll have an electronic timer there on your screen. Is Mr. Manville with us? He is, I'm told. There he is. You're on mute still, so if you'd unmute yourself and then go ahead. Evan, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy, councilors. My name's Evan Manville from Ward 2. I'm just checking in today to thank you for some improvements on South Commercial, first the safer speeds that Councilor Phillips supported, but mainly for the restriping of about a mile between Oxford and Madrona and creating some buffered bike lanes and a couple of crossings. Commercial is really critical connection. It's the only connecting street for much of South Salem. West of my house is blocked by the cemeteries. East of my house is a tangle of non-connecting streets. It's also one of the flattest, most gradual hills in Salem, so it's critical for bikers. In summer 2022, I was taking my kids to daycare, my 5 and 8-year-olds, less than 3 miles away. Google Maps just said, jump on Commercial. And I said, are you insane on a bike? There's speeding traffic, it's dangerous noise levels, it's crud. I came up with a route that took 17 turns. It didn't work for me, so I had to do another 4 tries. So it's really been hard as a parent trying to keep my kids safe, because traffic is a top killer of kids. Gun violence and traffic are the top 2 ways kids die. So fast forward to today, we have a couple of feet of buffer on that bike lane, and my first ride on that a couple of weeks ago was so relaxing. The tension just eased from my shoulders. I smiled. It was transformative. So thank you to the city. There's a lot of work yet to do. The other 4/5 of Commercial, et cetera. But I want to thank you to city staff and the council for making South Commercial part of it feel safer for me when I'm walking, biking, driving. and so making it safer for so many others who desperately need those safe, comfortable connections and choices on how we get around the city. So kudos, keep up the good work. Lots of work to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. All right, now we'll go to in-person testimony. We have top of the list is a person that signed up under Mr. Z. We will need you to state your name for the record, please, and either your address or your ward.
I won't state my name for the record. I am.
Okay, well then you can't testify because we don't allow
I'm
anonymous
testifying
testimony.
on a
Thank
domestic
you.
violence issue, so I need to keep that confidential, please.
Just a moment.
Understand no specifics will be made with regards to who the victim is.
Sir, just so you understand, this is a public record. Everything is available to the public.
I tried to do it in person with the chief. I was told, when I asked to speak with the chief, no, by the officer.
Go ahead.
I'm here representing a child under the age of 5, weighed 42 pounds, was picked up by the throat and neck by his father, who weighs 400 pounds, 6'4", because the father was playing a video game, had a migraine, and was trying to relax. The child hit his younger sibling and ended up, when he grabbed him, put him on his lap. The father admitted in a restraining order hearing to the offense, said he did it, and when the police report was filed, the police chose not to cite or arrest. I ended up talking to Representative Kramer and Senator Thatcher, and I've had a meeting with them about some issues with policy procedures, but City of Salem needs to amend their policies and procedures so that way things like this become an automatic citation. I've had to advocate to get that to the DA. It stopped with the police department, not go further. They were not going to do anything with it. My problem with that is it's not up to them. It shouldn't be up to them. Something like this needs to be sent to the DA, especially when the person has been admitted to it in court under oath. And I'm bothered by the fact that I had to push so hard because I'm having to deal with all this other stuff for the family, that when asked to speak to the chief about figuring out how to change policy, I'm flat out told no. I've emailed Counselor. I don't know if you listened to the transcript. I emailed you a transcript of the hearing, the FAPA hearing, where he admitted to it. I'm the one that made the police report. As soon as the FAPA hearing was over, I made a report. The cops didn't arrest, didn't cite. So I ended up having to go to legislators to make the changes there. The City of Salem needs to make some changes. They need to make some changes with regards to requiring all domestic violence reports to be forwarded to a DA for a review, require DVA classes, education for current police officers. Some of the police officers questioned why she didn't report it at the time. And people that are trafficked, people that are beat down, they stand on the corner by themselves, police drive by, they don't ask for help, and that's the way it is. That should be an understanding. I was a volunteer with Marion County Fire. I get this. I understand what's going on, but I think the City of Salem Police Department needs to have maybe a domestic violence trainer or specialist come in and do some training. But my biggest concern is that stuff needs to go to the DA. If the DA told me no, don't have time, don't have the resources, I'm fine with that.
Thank you for your testimony. I do understand from the email correspondence that it did get referred to the DA. So
that's, I get that. I'm here because there needs to be some changes and policy changes with the things. I'm not here for that because they're taking care of that.
I understand.
I'm trying to do some policy to figure out what you guys need to do to maybe make it a requirement of all domestic violence stuff reports go to a DVA or go to a DA for a review or something to that effect.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, next up is Tammy Coons. Hit that button so the green light comes on. There you go.
All right.
So my name's Tammy Kunz. I'm actually from Keizer. Some of you I have seen in neighborhood association meetings. I have been working on a safety awareness gathering that we're going to be hosting in Keizer for December 10th. Everybody should have a copy of this. Only thing I ask is that you please share this information with your neighborhood associations. I have not been able to get to everybody's because I attend all the Keizer meetings, which don't allow that collaborative effort that I'm working for, which is why I came here to get all of you to support. Also, I'm hoping that the city councilors, commissioners, staff, mayor will join our mayor and just come and see what we're doing and learn more about all the different things shared here. I won't repeat them because you can all look at them. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it, and thank you for the invitation. Next up is Tuesday Garrison.
Hi there, my name is Tuesday Garrison. I'm in Ward 2. I am a sophomore at South Salem High School, and I live 3 blocks away. And every day I walk home from school, and I live right across the street on Hoyt, right on the south end of Hoyt, across the street. And every day I have to stand there for like 2 minutes at least and wait for the cars to pass and pass and pass. It's right at the bottom of one hill and the start of another. And I don't know if there's like a way there could be a crosswalk or some sort of sign or something, but every time I stand there, and we live in Oregon, so it gets a little cold and rainy, and I stand there and it's getting a little wet, and I wait, and I know they see me, and it's just a struggle for me when I'm walking home. I don't know if there's like something that can be done for this, but I just wanted to make my point heard. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a quick question for you before you go. When you said Hoyt Street, what's the cross that you're specific cross you're talking about?
I live on Cottage.
So at Hoyt and Cottage, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, and
Great.
there's like 4 other cross streets that lie between the hills that I've also, like, some of my friends live on those cross streets, and I know they also have issues with the same thing because people, it's a hill, so I mean you gain speed, so I know it's hard for most people to cross there.
So the person sitting right over there is your city councilor. Raise your hand. Thank you. That's your city councilor. She is your best advocate here.
Okay.
And the guy right next to you is the guy that works at Public Works, and he's the one that's gonna. I saw him paying attention. He's gonna look at that and figure out if it's appropriate, if it's something we can do. He will help evaluate that and figure out if there's some way to make it better.
Okay. Thank you so
So I
much.
really appreciate your testimony, and I think Councilor Gwynn has something.
So I just wanted to say that I volunteered at the costume swap at Salem Cloth Project a couple weeks ago, and I met Tuesday and a couple of her friends, and I was so impressed by you. I invited her. She told me the concern that she had, and I said, come to a city council meeting. We care about this stuff. I do want you to know that not every city council meeting is like the one you saw tonight.
Sure.
And there are youth opportunities, like there's Salem, what's the chamber one? Leadership Youth through the Salem Chamber. I'm going to try to get you connected with them, but it's a great way to be involved in the community and perhaps into politics. I think you would be great. I just don't want you to think that tonight is an example of. Tonight was a very unusual and really unfortunate. I was sitting here going, oh no, because we're all here, although we have differing opinions, we're all here because we want to make this community better, and with a spirit of collaboration and respect for one another, we can really get things done, and unfortunately you didn't see that tonight, so.
It's okay. I found it interesting, so.
Thank you.
Councilor Stapleton.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming down. And I would actually say that I think this was a great meeting for her to come to because it showed that you can get a group of people with diverse ideas and backgrounds in a room, and we can talk with each other and talk out our differences. And I don't think we do that enough in our public spheres. And so I understand that sometimes it can be really uncomfortable, and sometimes it's uncomfortable for me too. But I think it's good that you see adults being adults and working out our differences. What I wanted to say was that you are a great example of what can happen when somebody can have a frustration or have a struggle in the city and then bring it forward and get results and get people to explain things or make it better. And I just want to encourage anybody who's listening that if you have those things that have been bugging you forever, to reach out to your city councilor or talk to staff about it, because a lot of times it's things that we just don't know about and we can actually help you with. So thanks for coming down. It's really great to have you testify.
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you, Mayor Hoy. Yes, I am your ward representation, and you can certainly email me, and I would do, as Councilor Stapleton just said, is getting you in touch with other people. Also know that there's the SCAN Neighborhood Association, which have a very active group, and one of their committees is about traffic and pedestrian crossing, and it's discussed on a regular basis. It would be something that either you or your family might want to attend. It's the second Wednesday of the month, and it meets at the library at South Salem High School, and at 6:30, or is it 6 o'clock? One or the other.
6 or 6:30
6 or
at the library
6:30.
at the high school.
I get confused. And it would be a great place to also talk about that. And we just recently, at the last meeting, discussed pedestrian crossings near and around South High School. But I think Mr. Bechtel, who's sitting right next to you, is probably going to provide you with a very direct a way to find out more information. But thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Councilor Phillips.
Thank you for coming down tonight. We really appreciate hearing from you and all of our community members, but thank you both for being here. I think the staff are going to take this real serious. You have a lot of leverage right now. That being said, if you want even more leverage, I would just piggyback on what your counselor said. Councilor Nishioka is absolutely correct. You know, in the last 4 years, I've seen like our processes change. So like your neighborhood association really has been empowered to have even more leverage to show that it's not just you, one person asking for something, but that it has community support. So if you go to them, their traffic committee can help you with that process as well, which will give you maybe double the leverage you already have. So I wish you the best. I think, you know, building a safer infrastructure is super important. So we're so grateful for you letting us know what could be better in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down. And with that, we're adjourned.